future of the iPhone is reportedly staggered and completely different as we approach the device's 20th anniversary. Also, Apple seems to already know that the iPhone 17 Air will need an extra push if it plans to satisfy a good chunk of users. Google has a complete visual redesign of Android coming soon, and trust me, they did their homework. But then, Google seems ready to give you full and native Android desktop mode that's kind of bigger than what you already know from Samsung. I'm Jaime Rivera, and I told you we had too much for just one video. Here's another 4 good topics. This is TechBriefing, powered by MediaTek. Google has really taken some official spotlight this week, particularly with what the company is doing with its software, so let me split this into 2 segments. Google I/O is just weeks away, which I'll be covering live. We're expecting a lot of things like Google TV improvements, Gemini and Android Auto, Android XR updates, you name it. What we weren't expecting is for Android to get a complete visual overhaul. The company accidentally revealed the blog post that was quickly taken down, but you can't trust the internet. Within, we get to see what the company calls Material 3 Expressive, or M3 Expressive for short. Seriously, I can't even remember how old Material U is, but M3 is all about a new design direction focused on emotion, clarity, and modern aesthetics. It emphasizes color, shape, size, motion, and containment as the pillars of a design system meant to guide attention and elevate the emotional appeal to the UI. For context, Google describes it as its most research design update ever, with 46 studies and feedback from over 18,000 people globally. Back in 2022, a research intern questioned why Google apps were so bland, which sparked the use for eye tracking, focus groups, usability testing, which led the company to discover that with these changes, people would spot UI elements 4 times faster. Sure, they also liked the added colors, modern feel, and rebellious aesthetic. When compared to iOS, M3 Expressive boosted perceptions of modernity by 34%, subculture relevance by 32%, and rebelliousness by 30%, but now I want to see that audience sample, as these 3 things are very subjective to the target being studied, in my opinion. On a positive front, we did hear that elders had as much ease at performing tasks as younger users, which is a big win. Reports claim that we can see some of these changes already on quick settings on Android, but I'm sure we'll learn more at Google I/O. I'm curious to know what you think about all this in the comments. But fine, let's start with the second segment of these Android 16 updates, as Google continues to bring some really cool features. The company seems to be quietly laying the groundwork for a true desktop mode in Android, bringing together features like DisplayPort mirroring and desktop-style windowing to turn your Android phone into a broader tool. With Android 16 beta, users can now test this mode when connecting a Pixel phone to an external display, though we don't know how far back this is supported on legacy devices. The result is a desktop-like experience, complete with a taskbar, resizable app windows, notification shades, and full keyboard and trackpad support, all while the phone itself remains usable. Now, the question is obviously the intent behind this. Yes, this is not all new. We have services like Samsung DeX and whatever Huawei's alternative was called years ago, but if we're honest, these are services that never really took off. Thing is, for Google, the agenda seems bigger if we consider that they already have Chrome OS. As Android components are already very much a part of its desktop operating system, we wonder if the company is having second thoughts, and in that sense, give Android more of the power that we wish iPadOS would bring, but Apple has never really provided. Maybe it has to do with the possible split that the DOJ is trying to impose on the company, but whatever the case may be, I'm totally ready for this. I'm curious to know what you think about this, because I seriously like the availability of DeX, but never really use it much. Now let's switch to Apple for 2 segments, as this next one on the iPhone 17 Air is controversial enough. Obviously, the biggest selling point for this new device is that it'll be Apple's thinnest iPhone ever at just 5.5 millimeters. Thing is, you knew there would be compromise, and now it seems Apple is sort of hinting to it. According to a report from The Information, internal tests show only 60 to 70% of users are expected to get a full day of use without needing to recharge, a drop from the 80 to 90% recharge in the past models, which I will admit are pretty legendary. So guess how the company plans to fix this? Yeah, you guessed it. To help offset the battery trade-off, Apple is reportedly planning to offer a dedicated battery case as an optional accessory, similar to what it did for the older models like the iPhone 11 and later, which means that yes, the now discontinued MagSafe battery pack is most likely gonna make a comeback. Obviously, we already knew of the other possible compromises like the single rear camera, no SIM card slot anywhere in the world, though I'm sure the reports of the single speaker don't really apply to mono sound, as this has been addressed for years. I mean, we currently even see it on Pixels where there's only one grill, but we get the assistance of the earpiece. Given its experimental approach, we even hear that suppliers are reportedly cautious about its sale potential, dedicating only 10% of iPhone 17 production capacity to this model. I'm curious to know what you think about this alternative in the comments. Now, before we get to the hottest news, let me tell you about today's sponsor, MediaTek. When you look and try out the CMF Phone 2 Pro, the first thing you'll think is there is no way this phone costs just $279. The design is gorgeous, it has a triple camera system that's modular with optional accessories, it's got a great display, performance, and battery life, but what really makes this possible is the power of the MediaTek Dimensity 7300 Pro. Its 4nm architecture enables support for great display quality, accelerated gaming, and the latest forms of connectivity, along with top-tier AI computing at a more aggressive price tag. It's the reason brands like nothing trust MediaTek for devices like these. Thanks to MediaTek for sponsoring this video. And finally, for the hottest news today, let's talk about Apple, as it seems the company plans to make major changes to how it launches iPhones, but there's a few tidbits to consider. First, we have reports from The Information that claim that the company plans to change the iPhone release cycle entirely, and as soon as 2026. Apparently, the plan is to stagger the launch, with the iPhone 18 Pro and Pro Max arriving in the fall, but then wait for it. It seems that this will happen along with the new iPhone 18 Air and the company's first foldable iPhone. This foldable device will reportedly feature a book-style design with a 5.7-inch outer screen and the nearly 8-inch diagonal inner display. This pretty much indicates that the Air is considered a flagship along with the Pro models and the foldable. Anyone wanting a refresh from the base model or the E model will have to wait until the spring. Sources claim that the reason is for Apple to better manage its resources and supply chain now that it'll have 6 variations of the iPhone in the lineup. Second, let's talk about that 20th anniversary iPhone. It seems the company is preparing to finally give us a truly all-screen device by 2027 in order to commemorate the milestone. This model would hide both the front-facing camera and the Face ID system under the display, finally realizing Johnny Ive's long-standing vision for a clean, uninterrupted front design. What we don't know is if this is gonna be a special iPhone to be sold along the regular models, like we saw with the iPhone 10, because we never really had an iPhone 9 if you remember. Now, as a stepping stone, the iPhone 18 Pro and Pro Max expected in 2026 are reportedly featuring an under-screen Face ID with only a small pinhole at the left for the front-facing camera. While this change eliminates the need for the current pill cutout that we have, it's still unknown if that means Apple will phase out the dynamic island entirely. In today's question, let me know, what do you think about the possible staggered launch in the spring and the fall? Because honestly, I like the idea. I feel it's better than just getting a color refresh or an E, but listen, that's just me. I'm curious to know what you think about this in the comments. Friends, thanks so much for joining us on another episode of Tech Briefing. We are now up to 2 videos a week and currently working on that 3rd one, so stay tuned. Like, subscribe, and join the conversation in the comments, as I'm sure you know and have seen me try to respond to as many as I can. Also, follow me on social media, as there's a lot of behind the scenes with what we're working on for the future. Our company has now grown to 7 people, so we really hope you like what you see. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.